Hey Scott, how you doing, sir?
Oh, yeah. Well, no. Want to do it for me? Nobody wants to do it.
You want to
I
try?
tried, I'm trying to survive. I tried Cynthia. I tried Brad and his new kid. It's all I think I was. I guess if I put money on it, maybe it might be a good store. If I told Brad to give him $100 to do it, I don't know, he might take it. No, I got it. All right.
Once that comes in,
We never.
level where I'm at.
And we got that, you know, like I said, we got like $600 like that we could spend. They have a 9:30 status on the
David.
Here. Present. Good.
That's fine.
So we did get all the software installed on it.
That's fine. Okay, that's perfect.
So who all, I sent out the survey.
Yeah, it's just a Greg gets one, Kathy, Jennifer, and Jenny Smith.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody else has one.
Yeah.
These are new chairs.
I noticed.
I'm good. Offering to the people in those horrible wooden
Hey,
chairs.
you guys fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take one.
Grab one of our new ergonomic chairs.
Very familiar, these are.
Yeah, remember those?
I do.
Yeah, tables are the same too.
I heard you say that in some presentation, I thought it is exactly the same.
High quality.
Well, obviously it lasted a long time.
Very well. No.
I can control my call while we're talking. I said I can control my call while we're talking.
Probably sleep.
It actually doesn't bother me. Yeah. It doesn't bother me.
I gotta shut down Kathy by 4.
Yeah. Yeah, so can I.
Full kit.
Uh-huh.
Oh, good night.
Yeah, it just.
I never go to bed.
My dad used to make it up and take it back.
I some-
He'd sit in bed.
I sometimes do too.
Yeah, I can drink it pretty late.
Yeah.
Although then I'm on multiple times,
Yeah.
but not because of
Yeah, the
sleep.
caffeine. Well, these are our little.
Beautiful.
Shelters.
So nice.
Okay.
If you ever need to take your car, you can do that too. I just leave mine in place, I usually laptop, I used to always bring my own laptop
Yeah.
as well, and then at some point I just stop.
out on the walkway. I'm gonna bring my dog up there. There's other thing about dog.
Just get some wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so everybody's got something with them. And access, I mean, once we're back to more normal, a lot of times I come straight from work and I'll have my computer anyway, so I'll be, it's got a bit of a bigger screen on it, so sometimes I use that. Thank you. No, thank you.
That's a, I had no problem. I was gonna say that. He was saying, well, there's something that's wireless that we could just, hook up and whatever.
You want to do it?
Oh, you mean that? Oh. Yeah.
Hey, Molly.
How are you? Hey, I guess you.
Yes.
I just read it. I just read it really fast.
Just so you know.
Can I move to one of those if I can?
I'm sorry?
So you can still do one of those and still be received.
Oh, okay, great.
I did do one of the chairs that was over there already. It's usually very good. You let someone walk in. How have you been?
All right.
Yes, a good holiday? Great.
Didn't get a chance to
That was very, I'm not saying, I'm number 70, I'm the long sleeve shirt.
I'm a 70 year.
I'm that guy. I'm that guy who needs a
What's with the Derby just my mom was sunburned growing up. I'm in the one good burn and they said, that our parents just let us my kids, if they don't do is great. On a charge me we went on spring break and Natalie's there.
I don't know. I figured it'd be quicker for me to send you than for me to try to look it up.
Do you have it off the top of your head?
You got it written down.
I think I might be good.
Hey, Jared.
I might be good on this one.
You can hear me okay? Awesome. I got Mr. Haney running controls on you, so if you get muted, that's why.
All right, be nice to me, Mr. Haney.
I'll do my best.
Hey, Michelle. Hey, Steve.
Perfect.
Hey, Gary.
You know, I not only
So I got to
Share the screen.
for somebody, you know, I like to run.
Oh, yeah.
No, yours you won't be. But when Greg and Cam
Not for
and Janine go, I'll share the screen.
And I didn't look at it for the next day.
You'll pull hers up then for us.
So.
Yeah, I'll help out.
And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, oh, this looks like a social security number. So I'm in payroll and I'm like, oh my God, this is my social security number. It was my social security number with your name on it.
Gary, how are you?
Santa don't bring up, just the regulations and stuff. Well, especially because you're here and it's different, and you're, maybe on it. Second.
Did that work for us?
For me, my first, yeah, I got to stay home.
I did, you know, that, and then I went right away and did a struggle in Spain, you know, and did that. And I knew I could contacted our, my daughter just told me that, and, you know, like I did. I think I could never got one. Okay, so I said it is like I did every.
Great, how are you?
You know, this is.
It's boring.
So anyway.
It's all online and
Probably about 6 weeks later, I got a.
I only have one Zoom class.
Saying that it's been denied, so it's been emergency to provide facilities.
Yeah, and I'm in person next
Yeah, I was just
fall,
like,
so that will be good too.
it was just the.
Let me get to play softball and for now.
Maybe. I guess. Especially here. Back in Titanic.
You guys have good business?
How are you? Yeah. Really want to see coach in the district this year. Oh, are you? Yeah, on loan from GISD. Thank you.
You know how I know.
Right, yeah, early, I tried to work at
Yeah, it was
high
great.
end. So it was,
And it was one of those, like, oh, you've been.
you know, right, but
Usually, what do we do? What was it, 150?
so then I was freezing, like, I took my basic confidence, you know, this.
Probably not gonna watch the whole thing.
Yeah, no, that was the one that we stepped away. Yeah, I did. How you been?
I would have always loved it.
You would have just counted on it.
That would be me.
We rented the boys' high school already.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Linden Board of Education. We are calling this meeting to order. Once again, just to remind everyone, we're required to adhere to the emergency order requirements of face masks and the Open Meeting Act's requirements that include social distancing of individuals remaining at least 6 feet apart for anyone outside of the individual's household. We're also limited to 25 individuals in this room, including board members. We do have overflow area at high school senior commons where we are streaming the meeting. All public comments have to be made in person, so if there is anyone in the senior commons, they would have to come in here and make public comments. We do have one member of the board, Mr. Montague, is meeting virtually with us this evening in compliance with the guidelines for board members who meet one of 3 criteria. Once again, if you're going to make a public comment, there are cards. Please complete the cards and turn them into Mrs. Callard so we can keep record of tonight's transactions. Please silence all cell phones, remove any hats, and we'll rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bear with us as we do have a few new technology items this evening that we're kind of getting used to, so we'll try to keep the speed bumps under control. At this time, we'll have the roll call. Mrs. Kelly?
Well, I have the malfunctioning one, so I'll just talk really loud. Amy?
Just click the button, right? Present.
Yeah, I think yours probably wasn't
Losey? Luck?
Present.
Montague?
Present, I'm logging in via Zoom due to a medical condition or reason. From Linden, Michigan.
Thank you. And Murphy?
Present.
Shayna? Here. And Maker?
Present. At this time, I need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. Once again, roll call vote since Mr. Montague is virtual.
Amy?
Yes.
Luck?
Yes.
Montague?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Shayna?
Yes.
And Maker?
Yes. Our first item is superintendent report. Mr. Selson.
Thank you, Mr. Maker, and welcome everybody. And welcome Mr. Montague. Thank you guys for attending. I hope everybody enjoyed spring break, had a great Easter. Before we get into superintendent reports, as you can see, we do have some new technologies with us today. A few meetings back in November, we attempted this streaming opportunity and blew some of our components in our old speaker system. Chris Horsley, we brought him on board, and one of the first things we challenged him with is to get us something that was portable, wireless. We didn't have the cords running everywhere like we did before. And as you can see, Chris has come through for us big time, so Chris, thank you. For the board members, obviously I think most of you have already figured it out. With the base in front of you, there's a button right in front. All you got to do is hit it. The red light will come on. That means your microphone is active. I think Chris told me we can have up to 6 people with active microphones at one time. And so I don't forget, we also have a new Promethean board that Brett's going to use tonight, just to kind of show our board members what the new Promethean board is all about. I think if you remember back in the fall, Konica Minolta, Greg had set it up. We visited with Konica Minolta, and they've kind of expanded not just copy machines, but also into other services and resources. And so they allowed us to use one of them for a little while. We popped it around to different teacher classrooms, and then using some of the ESSER 1 monies, and we purchased 18 total, 3 for each building. And the intent is more of a pilot, because if it is something that our staff can use and it works well and it becomes efficient, then as we roll through some of the technology projects within our bond, we've already got a leg up on some of the technologies that we can use. So again, Brett will be kind of showing us a little some of the features there as he gives his presentation later this evening. We do have some updates. Why are we in person for this meeting, for our board meetings? Under the Open Meetings Act and the March 19th emergency order on gatherings and face masks issued by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, which was again amended again on March 31st. Basically from April 1st through April 19th, a school board may only conduct a virtual meeting in whole or in part to accommodate absent board members due to military duty, a medical condition, or a statewide or local state of emergency or state of disaster. Thus, if one of the above meetings does not apply, a school board is required to conduct a traditional in-person meeting. Our meeting this evening is being streamed through our LHS YouTube channel. Thank you, Sherry St. Clair, I thought I saw her here, for working and helping us out with that. And it can be accessed for public viewing. Linden Elementary peer-to-peer program has been recognized. The GISD Autism Spectrum Disorder Teacher Consultant Team has selected the peer-to-peer program at Linden Elementary as a recipient for a Nintendo Wii video game system. The Nintendo Wii, purchased through funds from the GISD START contract, comes ready to play. Fully accessorized sports games and 4 rechargeable controllers. The video game console is intended to be utilized as a medium of exchange between students with autism and their general education peers. The research on peer supports indicates social skills can only develop with authentic social opportunities. While general education students often develop social skills through interaction and turn-taking on video games, students with autism are frequently deprived of similar opportunities. The Nintendo Wii has been utilized in peer-to-peer programs throughout the state as a way for both general ed and special ed students to connect, build friendships, and develop social and emotional skills. Additionally, the Nintendo Wii can be used as a tool for positive reinforcement to promote academic engagement and positive behavior with our students. Students can be incentivized for work completion and rewarded for meeting school or classroom expectation. The GISD ASD TC team is thrilled to be able to offer our Linden Elementary peer-to-peer program with this award. State testing. The United States Department of Education has provided 2 recent decisions on MDE's request for assessment waivers, which actually begin next week. In the first, the United States Department of Education approved the waiver regarding federal high-stakes accountability, which happened on March 26th. However, yesterday, the USED denied the MDE request to waive the requirement for summative state assessments. As such, districts will have to offer all state summative assessments this school year. These tests include MSTEP for students in grades 3 through 8, PSAT for 8 and 9, MME, including SAT for students in 11th grade, MyAccess for students receiving special education services in grades 3, 8, and 12, and the WIDA for students in English learner programs in grades K through 12. Linden High School will start their state testing, as mentioned, which includes the SAT, ACT Work Keys, and M-STEP for social studies and science, for grades 11, 9, and 10 on Tuesday, April the 12th. M-STEP testing window for grades 5, 8, and 11 is April 12th through May 21st. And they typically create a schedule for students and staff. And the testing window for grades 3, 4, 6, and 7 is April 26th through June 4th. VFW, some announcements. Every year, the Linden VFW Post 4642 hosts a post-level essay competition that gives our students an opportunity to write essays expressing their views on a patriotic theme. Patriots Pen is open to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. This year's theme was, What Patriotism Means to Me. Linden had 22 essays submitted for review, and 3 individuals were selected to move to the district level competition. These 3 Linden Middle School students are Garrett Merrick, Justice Heichel, and Jaden Wolverton. The Voice of Democracy is open to students in grades 9 through 12 who compete by writing and recording an audio essay. This year's theme was, Is This the Country the Founders Envisioned? The Linden Post winner from Linden High School was Rachel Spawn. And then the VFW Smart Mayor, VFW National Citizenship Education Teacher of the Year. Building principals submitted nominations to the Linden VFW Post for review. 2 teachers from Linden were recognized by the Linden VFW Post 4642 as worthy candidates at the post level. They were Elizabeth Molnar, who teaches at Linden Middle School, and Celeste Church at Central Elementary. Post level winners were recognized during the Linden VFW Post meeting on Thursday, March 26th, and congratulations to our winners and all of those who submitted. Therapy dogs. We've taken steps, and I've had the opportunity to meet with Denise Westerveld at Argentine Early Childhood Center and Vicki Makaravich at Linden L about securing a therapy dog for the 2021-22 school year. We're in the preliminary stages of working with breeders, trainers, school handlers, and certifications. Therapy dogs can be beneficial to help reduce student and staff stress, anxiety, allow for more rational thinking, boost self-esteem, and can even help students read. Currently, our building principals have secured the use of therapy dogs through outside resources. Linden is now looking for their own to provide another opportunity for our students. Staffing update. Cynthia Marchese, Brett Young, and I have been meeting with building principals to review staffing needs for the 2021-22 school year. Kudos to our principals for being forward thinkers and thinking of our staff and students first throughout this process. Just a reminder to 2 of our board members, David Haney and Jared Montague, that we are scheduled for training on the superintendent's evaluation tool next Wednesday, April 14th. I believe that's at 6 o'clock. And again, I threw it out for all board members. If you're interested in attending, let me know. Because if we do have 3 or more, or 4, if we have 4 or more board members, then we will call a special meeting. And last thing I have, board members, I put it on your table, Sparks Spring Super Sale. And what this is, through GCI. We have students that attend GCI from across the county, from everything from culinary to crafts, hair, cosmetology, building homes, and so construction, heating, cooling, plumbing. And so what they have done, because of COVID, they're still working on their projects. So what they're going to do is basically, in a nutshell, have a showcase, a craft sale, if you will, or a goods sale. So the products that our students are making at GCI on Thursday, May 27th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at GCI, everything will be outdoors. They'll have products that the public can purchase that have been made by our students. If you want to get your nails done, they'll have quick stations for you to get your nails done. If you want food, food and goodies there that have been made by our students in the county. So again, that's Thursday, May 27th, if you're interested. And that is all I have, Mr. Maker.
Thank you, Russ. Appreciate it. Our first presentation tonight, we have a special presentation on early literacy by James Stryker.
Here, I'm going to share the screen here.
Okay, good evening. I'm Janine Stricker. Thank you for having me here this evening. It's a pleasure to be here with the Board of Education and community members. I have been working in the Linden schools this year as the early literacy coach. I am a member of the community, a longtime member of the community. This is my high school. And as Mr. Soselski has said a few times, in many ways it still looks the same, but in many ways I know that it's very different. This has been a great experience to be back in my hometown school, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about the work that I've been doing. But before I do that, just a little bit about myself. I am a longtime employee of the Clio area schools. This is my 26th year of teaching. And this year I am working as an early literacy coach on loan through the Genesee Intermediate School District. And what that means is that I am still an employee of Clio Schools, and I am working as a coach and have been assigned to 2 districts in the county. One is Linden and one is Montrose. And I spend 3 days at the Linden schools, the early elementary schools, Hyatt and Lindenell. And I am working only in early literacy, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. My background, other than being a Linden Eagle, is being an Elma Scott, and I have extensive literacy training in reading recovery through Oakland University. My greatest accomplishment, however, is being a wife and a mother of 2 children. One of them, who is with me today, Katie, proud member of the class of 2020. Katie, thanks for coming. And that's just a little bit about me. And let's hear what we've been doing. Every child, every day. We all can agree that every child is important in every classroom in Linden schools every day. And every child is important in every classroom in Michigan every day. Well, in the year 2017 and 2018, essential literacy practices were rolled out in response to our ranking in literacy in the nation, based on the nation's report card. Our results as a state were not pleasing, and something had to be done. And so a document was rolled out in response to a great need to improve literacy achievement. This document has many contributors, but in large part is in service of a goal to have Michigan be in the top 10 of states in 10 years. The early literacy practices essentially represent high-quality teaching, best practices that you would find in early literacy classrooms across the district and across many districts in our state. The difference is that identifying those strategies and practices, naming them, and refining practices and increasing intentionality will absolutely result in a higher yield, greater results, higher achievement. All the bulleted items on this slide represent practices that teachers are in agreement about. Starting with motivation, you know that children who are motivated to learn are those who are likely to stay engaged in the process and to be stronger learners. We know that our classroom teachers spend a lot of time reading quality literature to children. We know that our teachers are meeting in small groups to talk about letters, sounds, writing, vocabulary, and that our teachers are committed to ongoing assessment and also to collaborating with families. So the essential practices are not something additional to the teacher responsibility. They're just an effort to identify and to label what's already going on and to find ways to strengthen and refine. And that's what I have found here in Linden, that these essential practices are in place and that we're finding a way to fine-tune them. Everything that you find in the essential document, the essential practice document, is very much rooted in the Michigan K-12 standards for English language arts. Everything that will be recommended through the essential practice guides is something that has been identified as a curriculum standard. Nothing rogue, nothing unusual. With the coaching that I am participating in and that your teachers are participating in, we are very much tied to a model that has been put forth by the Michigan Department of Education. It's identified as a cycle because there are several parts that could be happening in unison, could be happening in any order. They are not necessarily linear or sequential, but rather cyclical in nature. They start with, perhaps they could start with conferencing, where we're identifying a need, identifying a plan of action. It could include modeling of a practice or co-teaching, looking at some assessment, and doing some observation, and co-planning. All of those are important pieces of a coaching model. And this is the model that I have been following with your teachers. Coaching is in literacy exactly what it is in athletics, for example. I want to go forward just a bit, and then I'll loop back around. Coaching in literacy is exactly, to me, like coaching in athletics. Earlier this afternoon, I was on the beautiful, partially newly renovated varsity softball field, and the same principles apply. In all coaching, in all teaching, context matters. So in a cycle, a coaching cycle, when we're planning and observing and putting forth a course of action, all of that is dependent upon context. This picture, while it's not, it has always generated a lot of conversation, it's not particularly flattering of me. You can clearly see that an important decision has to be made. I'm playing the outfield, the ball's coming. I need to make a decision of whether to make this difficult catch, take a risk, make the dive, whatever. But in order to make that decision, and whether you will think that I've made an accurate decision, you need to know the factors. And some of those things you might have wondered would be, where are the runners? When you take this risk to dive down the right field line, happen to be, where are the runners? How many outs are there? What inning is it? Where are your teammates? Do you have any backup here? And what was my training? The same thing is true with literacy coaching. In every case, when we're making decisions about teaching and learning in service of children's achievement, because schools exist not for teachers to have jobs, but for children to learn. So that has to be primary. Context is crucial. So if we're going to implement a strategy such as small group instruction, and I want to decide how I'm going to group those children, I need to know perhaps their interest, their text level, their skill base. And so everything is in context. If I walk into a classroom where I've been invited to observe a lesson and there's something that catches my eye, it is best to know what's happened previous to that. It's best to know what's happening next and what is happening around that. And so that's really what has guided us in this process in addition to the coaching model. Just as there are essential practices, I have essential purposes. I think everything worth doing is worth doing well, and so I identified purpose for myself. And I wanted to be part of the Linden teaching and learning team, just as I have been a part of the community and part of the athletic teams. I wanted to make sure that we were collaborating and that I could really contribute to the work that's done here. because everything comes back to student learning and student growth and achievement. And to do that, even as a community member, even though I've taught 26 years, and even though I have a background that's pretty steeped in literacy development, I had to work hard to establish relationships. And I had to make some assurances to the people that I was working with and what they could count on from me. And the biggest thing was to be vulnerable in the process. Yes, I've had some things that I was able to share in terms of knowledge and ideas, but I have learned as much as I have gained. And that is a result of being vulnerable. My background is literacy. My background is not technology. In every building, I had to find someone who could be my tech coach. And you have to be vulnerable to do that. I have made effort to make sure that I was respectful of the information that was brought and the ideas that were shared. And I also work hard to maintain confidentiality. I work with teachers, teachers work with their administrators. That's how a true coach operates. So I had to really make certain assurances to the staff. And I have lived up to that, and I think that they would agree. During the school year, we had focus areas that were identified in two ways. One was a staff survey at the beginning of the year of what essential practices they were most interested in, and also administrator input. Primarily, I've been working to strengthen small group instruction because that really seems to be what moves the needle in terms of achievement. Also, intervention support, some whole group close reading, and also supportive of the curriculum items that you have in place. Back to the model. And all of this is done in a very collaborative and pensive way. This is an example of the planning that goes into a coaching cycle. Sometimes coaching can feel a bit random. You run into someone and they say, hey, I was wondering if you might come in and just take a look at this group that I'm working with and maybe you'll have some input. But the focus of true coaching is to be intentional with the planning and the focus, and that happens when you spend time planning with the staff. Identifying standards, identifying practices and processes and assessments and all of those pieces. So while lots of great things happen with casual conversations in the copy room and in the hallway and even at Alpine, you get the biggest bang for your buck out of intentional planning and execution. During this school year, I certainly don't have to reinforce how many ways that you all have had to be flexible and your staff has had to be flexible with being in person and hybrid and remote. But during this time, everyone has been very open and responsive. And at this time, the staff and I have completed 6 coaching cycles, and those coaching cycles are anywhere from 4 weeks to 6 weeks to 8 weeks. They've been in person, online, partially in, partially out. And the potential impact can be measured by the number of students in those teachers' classes. So 6 have been completed, 5 are ongoing. Those students impacted are simply reflective of class sizes. And not to, I know I mentioned being kind of, there are some random things that go on. Those are very impactful as well. And I also am flexible and responsive to things that come up somewhat randomly. Hey, do you have a minute to watch my reading recovery lesson? And I'm always eager to do that. The impact has been measured probably more powerfully by a teacher perception survey that I asked teachers to complete at the end of the coaching cycle. There are 4 categories. knowledge of the essential practice that we decided to focus on, frequency of the practice, quality of the implementation of the practice, and then the teacher's general belief about the impact that that practice had. And I just did a quick breakdown of that information. Before coaching, 17% of those of the completed cycle. So that's just a very small sample size. I've completed 6 cycles, so that's of the 6. 17% rated themselves as proficient in that standard or in that essential practice. Not as in general, but it's specifically to what we were focused on. After coaching, 67% viewed themselves as proficient. I think that shows the humility of your staff, frankly, and the commitment to continuing to learn. When you think that you have achieved and you have arrived, you know that your true educators know there's so much more to learn. In terms of frequency, how frequently was that practice being implemented in the classroom? Before coaching, 50% of teachers were utilizing the focus area in the classroom. After coaching, 100% felt that that practice was worthy enough to use every day. Quality, before coaching, in terms of using all of the components of the essential, 0 out of 6 felt that they were using it with intentionality. Not that they weren't, for example, doing small groups, but they didn't feel that they would rate themselves as intentional users of the practice. After coaching, 100% rated themselves as intentional. Belief of impact, before coaching, 67%, and again, it's a very small sample size, felt that the practice that we decided to work on, whether it be small group, and that really was what we worked mostly on because that's what teachers know that moves the needle, is that small group instruction, meeting the needs of children where they're at. 67% felt that essential would have a strong impact, and then afterwards, 100%. So teachers are the best gauge of what's working and what they want to continue. So by the numbers, the staff has been responsive, and I expect similar results with the next 5 cycles as they're completed. And here's what they're saying. And again, it's about the coaching, not necessarily about the person. We're thankful to have a model for quality instruction coming back to elementary after 10 years. Having an adult that cares about best practices inspires me and makes it easy to learn. I'm thankful to have best practice discussions in a safe space to try different approaches and using the techniques and the language modeled by my awesome coach. I don't know that I call myself awesome, but this person is feeling that way. Thank you for all you've done for me so far. I'm working, I like this one the best probably. I'm working to be more purposeful in my planning for small group instruction. Living with intentionality, I think that's been the buzz in education for the last few years. And then some impact from one of your administrators. I feel that coaching has had a positive impact on the implementation of the best practices. Again, you have an excellent staff, and those practices are absolutely present in the classrooms. It's more noticeable after coaching that they are being implemented with more intentionality. That's the true measure of coaching, I think. And next year, the grant funding has been renewed. In a personal way, I want to narrow my focus. I'm hoping, with fingers crossed, that we have face-to-face instruction. We'll see, right? And that will, continue to grow. And I'm hoping to have another successful year. So I'm wondering if you might have any questions about that.
Start out with David.
I think the majority of your questions were answered in the slides as you went along that I wrote down, so I'm good. Thank you for the presentation. It was certainly thorough, and it sounds like a really interesting program. So thank you.
Sherry Left.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Janine. A lot of really great information, and it's really fun. We know all the positive things going on throughout the district, and it's really fun to see some of these, different and newer efforts that have been happening regardless of the difficult circumstances this year. So thank you so much for highlighting a lot of that for us.
Jared Montague, any questions, comments?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, hi, Mr. Stricker, thank you so much for the presentation. My question, I think what you said was, the assessment in 2017 and 18 indicated that, Michigan was not in the top 10, and that the goal was to have Michigan be in the top 10 in 10 years. So are there points in time where that is kind of remeasured to see how Michigan as a whole is doing to that goal?
I'm not sure exactly when the NAEP will be re-administered, in part based on our current situation, but the NAEP is administered every so many years. Mr. Young, do you know how many years that is?
And a lot, it's on a cyclical thing, but it's also which schools get assessed do change. And so we have been the NAEP recipients in the past, other schools, maybe in the next phase. The top 10 and 10 is unique to our previous state superintendent and part of Michigan's top 10 and 10. So with the onset and his, his passing, and obviously now with Dr. Rice at the hold or at the helm, what that now looks like with the new measurement elements, has shifted somewhat. We do know though that the focus on literacy is still a primary element and part of legislation with the Read by 3, which really was kind of a piece that Mrs. Stricker kind of pointed out with the onset of the essential practices.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thanks for all the great work you're doing. Appreciate it.
Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Thank you, Mr. Stricker, for your presentation. Do you share your time with us in Montrose?
I do. I am in Linden 3 days, and I am in Montrose 2 days.
Was there a certain reason why we got 3 days and Montrose got 2?
I believe that was a decision made by the administrators.
Okay. And your position is funded by the ISD?
It is funded through a grant, and that grant money then was shifted, if that's the right word, from the state to the ISD, and then to the local district, which in my case was Clio.
So around the county, were all the other schools participating in this literacy program too?
There are 8 coaches that came from the county, so not every district had teachers who wanted to participate as coaches, and not every district wanted to receive coaches. So I guess the answer is no, and I think that shows a lot of foresight that Linden wanted to do that.
Yeah, and we wanted to participate. Again, a lot of this came out of the legislation, the coaching model, the literature behind that, the power that this can bring. Russ and I had the opportunity to participate, and then again, all the districts in the county, had an opportunity to kind of put their hat in the ring, and those that did, we were kind of working with existing personnel to schedule.
Well, I thank your administration for pushing for the 3 days and pushing for the position in the first place. I mean, all help, we certainly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate your concern about in-person learning for the fall. I hope that that's the case too, because literacy is best learned in person. I believe that this kind of upgrade for a student is difficult to do over the internet or whatever. So I guess I appreciate your presentation and thank you again for your time.
Ms. Shelson.
I just want to say I appreciate the presentation. It was very informative. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Janine. I appreciate the update. I think it raises a lot of awareness for all of us. And I think we couldn't have had a better coach come to Linden, someone who's from here, embedded, and really has a desire, but also your experience. And it's obvious that your relationship and your personality, your ability to work professionally and personally with our staff really makes a big difference. And I can't think of anything more impactful than literacy for our youngest learners. And it makes me think, when Sean, more of a comment, when Sean Connery passed away in the last year, there was a video that I saw when he was receiving an award. And of all of the things that he had experienced in his life and all the accolades, the most important thing that he said in his life was when he was 5 years old, he learned to read proficiently. And that was the thing that was the deciding factor in his success in his life. So, you know, that you're here, that we have the staff that we have working with our youngest learners really is incredible. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on. Our administrative update is Brett Young with update on CIA.
Thanks, Mr. Maker. Thanks, board. Bring this out a little bit. Yeah, good evening, and again, thank you. And this is kind of an opportunity for us to somewhat look at some of our new technology, the Promethean boards. We have 19 of these now in the district. Staff, these are now just getting deployed. I know Chris and Ellen are now setting up some professional development for staff. Certainly tonight, I'm not going to demonstrate all of the features and the usability, but we certainly wanted you guys to be able to see some of the devices that we are piloting. And again, what a great opportunity we have with the bond to begin enhancing technology in the district to really assist us in support of learning. And so tonight, really want to provide you guys with the CIA update. Several things kind of going on that we really wanted to raise awareness of. And these items are really listed here. Really want to share with you guys just the chance we've had to, as a district, being able to participate and provide voice with a county work group, but also a state work group. And pretty exciting, some of the work that's happening, and I want to share that with you. Having said that, some of that work is then pushing into the development of the LCS Recovery of Learning Plan. And what I mean by that is certainly this year has had impacts, some of which we're not going to really see for several years, but we know that the in and out modalities, we want to make sure we're putting plans in place to support learners. And so I want to share a little bit about the work that's happening there. And then the final three pieces are really elements that we're really excited about. Expanding the program offerings for our students, and then working for some long-term goals as we talk a little bit about the LHS STEM Academy and some pre-planning that's happening right now. We're putting some footers in place, and then I'll talk a little bit about the 3 district consortiums, some work that we're doing even beyond the meeting we had a month or so ago in regards to a 3D virtual school. So with the intentions, they're there for you. You have the board packets. I don't want to read those, but ultimately it's really to raise awareness and being able to communicate some of the happenings that are occurring in the CIA world. So first and foremost, I mentioned this ELL consortium and MASA, and this is really a chance for Linden to flex some work and have voice at the county level. First and foremost, I've had an opportunity to be a part of the English Learner Task Force. That group really consists of 10 district and ISD senior leaders from across the county. We're really charged with reviewing our current ELL consortium agreement. The goal is to present a viable and sustainable recommendation to the superintendent group, Russ being a part of that, where they will then vote and ratify the recommendations of our group. Ultimately, we're really looking at increasing our student support, looking at staff compensation of our ELL facilitators, and even some membership options for local districts in the county. The key piece to all of this really rests with our Section 41 and our Title III funding. These are federal funds that we get based on the number of ELL students in our district. Right now, Linden, typically, at least in the years that I've been here, we've had anywhere between 8 and 20 students that are ELL serviced students. In our county, we've seen some upticks in the last few years. We're over 1,000 students in the county that need English language learning and some support for language acquisition. So in Linden, in all of these districts, we have a wide variety of students and ranging from as little as 2 or 3 upwards of 400. Federal funds are kind of like a per pupil allotment. One of the struggles a lot of districts have had is the funds generated, particularly here in Linden, really aren't generating enough for us to provide a robust service and support for them. So some of the things our committee has really worked at and will be presenting to the superintendents is an opportunity to do some pooling of that funds to increase service and to bring on some highly qualified staff to help service our county districts. And so just wanted to kind of bring awareness of some things happening. I'm having a chance to share Linden's point of view in these committees. And again, I think that's a powerful thing when we can start building some partnerships and having voice at the table. The other piece is being a member of the MASA Strategies for the New Educational Landscape. This is a statewide work group of over 50 district-level leaders from across the state. The goal is to collectively start having dialogue about what the landscape is going to look like post-pandemic. What's the literature saying about best practice? And so we've done some deep dives into some things to ultimately look at how we can mitigate and support our students, as we're not quite sure the full impacts yet. There are 4 subcommittees. I happen to be on the extended learning one, and our goal is to make a recommendation to MASA, which in turn will then share that to superintendents across the state, Dr. Rice, our state superintendent, and even MDE as some recommendations for some work. And so I just share with you some other things going on behind the scenes that we have a chance to have some voice with. Having said all of that, transitioning now into our own recovery plan, really using some of the things we've done in these subcommittees that I just spoke of. And I want to kind of bring a brief awareness, and again, Mrs. Stricker really talked of it in her presentation as well. Regardless of what we do, quality instruction matters. That's what ultimately moves the needle. And making sure we're equipping our staff to continue to grow in their practice. And from that, we also are looking deeply into one of the most effective ways to support students is one-to-one tutoring multiple times a week. And this isn't the type of tutoring per se that we would have as a study group after school or a place to complete work. No. The literature highlights the impact high-dose tutoring does. 3 times a week, 50 hours a semester, we can ultimately improve learning outcomes. And again, I won't dig deep into some of the analytics, but we could. The point we're making is we're looking to implement some of these findings into our program here in Linden Community Schools. Part of that then stems into our summer learning. We are in the planning process right now to really focus in on literacy. And we just talked about the importance of that and really looking at an emphasis on those foundational skills, which is informed by our IRIPs and the work happening in our elementary. But part of the key piece is we want to make sure we can recruit the type of folks that we need to help some of these students really make gains. We also know we have to balance some intense focus on math and literacy. Literacy K-3, we would target math 4-8. We also want to make sure we're balancing that with the type of activities that are going to lead to engagement. And also we want to be able to embrace more of a camp-style theme. because we also know our kids have lost out on a whole mess load of experiences this year. So we want to make sure we're building our summer camp with some supplemental academic opportunities, such as field trips, other enrichment pieces, some of the things we really lost out on. And so we're really working right now on the planning elements of it, which is then segueing into some staffing. We're really trying to flex some of the federal grants with the ESSER funds to be able to support the recruitment and some of the things we really want to be able to do. In fact, we have a grant due next week. Russ, myself, and Cynthia and Greg, we've met with building principals, really looking at how we may want to best utilize some of the funds that we may be awarded when that grant is complete. But beyond the summer, we know that our recovery of learning plan will be a multi-year thing. We'll continue to do the things that you heard tonight, but also our intervention services will continue. We are looking to implement that high-dose tutoring model starting in the fall throughout next year. Continuing to ensure that the most vulnerable needs are being met. But as I mentioned before, we have to continue to utilize high-impact strategies as it relates to best practice. And so I'm just trying to build some general awareness of the pieces that we're looking to put in place, because we know some of the things that our students are experiencing will be long-lasting, or at least a multi-year kind of a thing. Shifting gears now into some programming elements that I really wanted to bring you guys up to speed with. And man, we are really excited for a fall launch of an elementary robotics and computer science offering to all of our K-5 and even our K-8 students. Why computer science? I don't think I need to really get into so much on the selling of this, because we know the problem solving, the collaboration, the chance to foster creativity. We get that part. But we also know that computing jobs are the best paying and the fastest growing segment. And we really want to be able to provide some of these experiences to our kids, starting at the elementary level. We worked with Sherry St. Clair, and we're trying to look at the end in mind and how can we scaffold this programming back. And so one of the things we've really looked at and we'll be sharing with the board next month during our curricular adoptions, we are looking to offer code.org and using the curricular models there. Why? Not only is it free, it's continually updated, but it's also aligned to the new computer science standards. We know some of our previous offerings, particularly at the middle school, were still suited towards the old 2012 standards, and so we were looking at a refresh there, but we also wanted to expand this into the elementary. But code.org is certainly a complete package. We know how important professional development is for the staffing for that, but also then the ongoing support that's there. This is really what made the decisions to move forward with presenting this to you formally next month. The scope and sequence at the elementary level, we really look at the fundamentals, the K-12 program certainly, but we also know that at the middle school we'd be offering the discoveries element of it. What does it really look like from a course track? At the kindergarten level, we'll be looking at roughly 12 hours over the course of a semester, because again, computer science would be blocked into a semester offering for K-5, with the second semester then being a robotics offering that I'll share with you in a moment. Some of the lessons you can see here, the type of hours there, but again, we know how important the digital citizenship elements are, but beyond that we start to get into loops, conditionals, binary. We really start the language of coding, which is going to strengthen the high school offerings, and again, at some point being able to allow us to expand what we do here at LHS. So we're super excited by some of these things, and as I mentioned, on the flip side, we are looking to offer FIRST Robotics for all K-5 students. FIRST Robotics, like many of us really know, this is a Lego robotics, particularly at the lower levels. Our robotic competition teams use FIRST Robotics right now at all of our levels. We're looking to expand this so that every kid in our district has an opportunity to work through that content. Robotics is specifically designed for the STEM learning objectives, which we know is going to help strengthen some areas of our elementary science that we want to do better with. Our science curriculum does cover some of the engineering standards. This will strengthen that. And so we're excited by that. The scope and sequence, I won't need to get into the customization of the hours there, but I do want to draw your attention to really one of the key pieces that we're going to have a chance to do as a district, and that's with a capstone event, where our kids, at the completion of this semester, will have a completed robot that does tasks. In a classroom, we'll have multiple groups creating their robots to do the tasks, to compete, and we can really look at our own capstone event, which would then give way to the competition element with FIRST Robotics. The type of scope and sequence hours are there. There's hyperlinks within the presentation if you want to look into those in detail. But again, we are looking to share this with you next month during our curricular adoptions. The real cool part then is to then look out a few years. We've had an opportunity to share with our CIA leadership team. I've met with Darren and Mike on multiple occasions, talked to Chris Landrum about the idea of an LHS STEM Academy. You know, we are on the throes of this bond project, and we know we've designated space for a STEM lab or robotics lab. One of the things we really want to do is to continue to allow our kids to engage in real-world project-based learning, work with teams, all of the things associated. But the real cool part of this is this would be meeting the eligibility requirements of the earth science, the biology, the algebra 1s, the geometry, and so forth. During the preliminary bond campaign, Russ, myself, Greg, we had a chance to visit some buildings, looking at some STEM, some robotics-specific places. I draw out Waterford, for instance, because again, we had a chance to really sit through, see their classes in action, and we really started to have some takeaways about what this could look like here. So, using some of their models, if you will, one of the ways we could look at this, and I say could, because we're really in a pre-planning, and I'll talk about the timeline in a moment. But one of the ways we can look at this is mirroring STEM algebra with STEM earth science, matching up coursework, with then also an elective block that would be the maker space time, where they would actually then get into the project-based orientation. And again, this is just an idea. Our team will be working on this over the next couple of years. And I say the next couple of years because I do want to start with, the STEM lab is slated for Series 2 of the bond, which, that's meaning it's under construction year 22, 23. Ultimately, fall of 23 is when we are maybe thinking we can launch our first cohort. So we know there's a few years out, but we want to begin our planning process now. And some of the goals we have this year is to assemble our STEM Academy team, to do some preliminary program shell, so that next school year we can start to explore a full curricular review, start mapping out some of the scope and sequence, participate in some site visits of some existing programs from around the state. I know Bart Mallow and French have helped and provided us some ins to some existing places where they've done work. And so over the next couple of years, that's where we'll start fleshing some things out, looking at staffing, course pairings, and so forth. But I want to share, and the point tonight is to build awareness of some behind-the-scenes things happening that we're looking to strengthen the programs here at Linden Community School. Which brings me into the very final piece for tonight, and that's just giving you an update about some other offerings that we're in the works in developing. We know that the need for virtual learning will more than likely continue, and so we are looking at a way in which we can work smarter and create, like we've done with the 3-district special ed consortium, move to a 3-district virtual academy, where it would be, as it would be a tuition-free option. We would look at, obviously, I'm not going to go through all of these because they're there for you, but highlighting a couple of them, being able to still have, meet the EDP plans that are put in place, having flexibility, using the same content providers we currently already have, working through the same type of payment structure that we have currently with the 3-district special ed department. But we're really excited. We know there's a need, but we also know that need may not be 20% of our students like it is right now. And so we can share the burden, and maybe burden's not the right word, but we'll have students and families that want to have this as an option. And if you have 4 kindergarten and 15 fifth graders and 27 seventh graders, it makes it a difficult, it makes it more challenging to give those offerings. But if we were able to pool and work together in a collaborative way, the thoughts and the push we're having right now is that the elementary K-5 programming would be provided by Fenton Area Public Schools. Linden would be taking care of providing the 6-8 instruction with Lake Fenton, the high school. Again, I mentioned the funding sources mirroring the special ed formulas. We have some built-in academic measures because we do know virtual world and a virtual offering does require students a certain level of independence, and we've had some challenges, and we want to make sure that our students are progressing in a virtual environment, and we want to build in some safe structures for that to help kids remain eligible, because maybe a virtual world isn't the best fit for them. Maybe it is face-to-face. So there's some things we're working through. We also know we're in the preliminary process right now of ensuring that we are meeting the per pupil guidance that will more than likely be back in full effect next year. And so we do have some 5OD requirements from the state. But the cool part is we already have students with an EDP, which is one of the requirements, and we've had a whole year of experience with 2A interactions. And so this is in the planning works right now. We have some meetings coming up with the superintendents next week, and then also some building leadership and our per pupil accounting people. Oh, that was a lot. Again, the goal is raising awareness regarding a number of things happening in the district regarding curriculum, instruction, and assessment. What questions do you have regarding any of the topics shared and presented this evening?
Mr. Hayden.
Thank you for the presentation. The whole concept of high-dose tutoring, tell us how that came to fruition.
Really, the literature is really fleshing out that this is one of the most powerful ways we can support students. And again, it's different than tutoring once a week. It's got to be, it's intentional, focused in on a skill-based piece. But the literature also talks a lot about the importance of relationship making with those students. Because again, we also know the social emotional impact that has been, that we've all felt at times during the last year and a half. And so there's an element within that as well.
And the main question, of course, is How much staff do we need to pull it off? And also, is it for at-risk only?
Right now, we're looking at it being an at-risk piece. Now, I mentioned some ESSER funds, and look, to be honest with you, we know when we're trying to be creative and incentivize some of these opportunities with some additional funding that's available to us, potentially with these grants.
So 50 hours, one-on-one per semester per student?
Could be one-to-one or small group.
I love the idea, to be honest with you.
And again, this is not our after-school, we're just going to finish homework on, no, this is really targeting.
With the whole point and purpose being recovery.
Correct.
The simple word of recovery.
It is.
So, I don't think I have any other questions. I know that some of the bond money is going to help with some of the things and items that you presented, so thank you for the presentation, and I'll go to the next.
Mrs. Lund.
Yeah, thanks. That was a lot of great stuff. And again, it's so exciting to see all of the awesome things going on behind the scenes as well. But I had kind of the same question Mr. Haney had with regard to the one-to-one tutoring and resource needs. It's obviously a perfect solution, I feel, as well, and it's very exciting if we're able to, make that work. I guess just looking at the ideas with the computer science and robotics, and first off, obviously, with the connection with my day job, I really love this idea. I think this is definitely the right direction to go for our district and our students. There's so many things with the first curriculum that teaches things, outside of just the STEM, core content, from, working with others and having roles on a team and overcoming adversity when you don't have the same ideas and, problem solving, just so many things that I think will be really awesome for our youngest learners, and it would be awesome to see that continue throughout, the entire K-12. Let's see, I wrote some notes down here, and the STEM Academy, you showed a slide with some curriculum with a track. Yeah, I mean, you could feed the computer science right into that.
This, correct. And the idea would be that, students, may end up having to be an application-based sort of thing as well. I mean, that's, again, this is preliminary, so I don't want to stress that, but Darren, everybody's excited by this, and so we're going to be spending some time here. We've got a couple of years to get this ironed out. But.
Yeah, and it would be awesome to see it, I mean, obviously as an elective, but even, being promoted to students that are not interested in STEM as well. I mean, it's becoming part of going to be an expectation in the general professional workforce to know how to do some of these basic programming types of things. And the earlier we can get to students on how to do this, I think the better, everybody will be positioned for that. So that's really awesome. I also think that some of I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit here, and I can't think of an example because I know this year we had to, kind of dial back some of the new electives being offered at the middle school, but I feel like some of the new middle school electives that were offered last year will fit really nicely with this track to kind of bridge what's going on K-5 with the idea of the STEM Academy at the high school as well. So I think that's awesome, and I absolutely love the idea of the 3-district virtual academy. I think that's, using our resources and our connections, and I just think it shows a lot of collaboration. I think it would be best for all of our communities and really be able to create a good opportunity for students that want that route. So I'm glad that that's the way that the district is considering how to promote virtual at this time.
The superintendents are certainly supportive. I mean, Russ, we've met a couple of different times. We've got a meeting coming up next week. There is some logistical things that we still have to iron out, but I think that those are all solvable things, and so we're excited.
Yeah, thank you so much for all this awesome info.
Ms. Montague, question?
Yeah, Mr. Young, thanks for the presentation. I got to say I'm inspired, and I love the fact that you're plugged in to so many different areas where you're a part of the English Learners Services Task Force with the ISD senior leaders and the MASA strategy task force. So it just tells me that you're going to be hearing a lot of information that's going to be at the tip of the spear of what everyone is talking about. So that's awesome. And the integration of the computer science and the STEM, it makes me think I had a handful of conversations with some parents of recent college grads, probably going back maybe a year and a half, that had gotten computer science degrees, and essentially they were able to name whichever company that they wanted to go work for. They got offers from the Googles and the Facebooks, and so it's obviously it is the future. And if there's anything that even since that conversation, if anything that we've learned, or the headline from one of the headlines from last year is that a lot of these technologies have been accelerated when you think about how much people are ordering things online and doing things virtually now. I think that it's great that we are forward thinking in that direction, and that it's going to be an offering for for students starting at a very early age. And I also like the integration that you're thinking about with some of the other courses such as earth science and physics and algebra. If there's a way to integrate that and it doesn't feel like it's a separation, then it's just, to your point, when you're going through some of the coursework and you talk about, okay, here's what an algorithm is and that kind of thing. It just becomes part of the lexicon that these students are learning, and I just can't imagine it's not going to serve them well in multiple capacities. So I'm really inspired to hear that you're thinking about all these things, and it's awesome. Just keep up the great work. Thanks for the presentation.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Baker. Thank you, Mr. Young, for your spirited and broad-based presentation. Really, really good. A couple things caught my eyes along the way. The summer learning component. Now more than ever, from what I'm hearing from people, parents out there, they're concerned that their kids, because of the COVID year and a half or whatever, that they've fallen behind in maybe certain areas, or didn't learn a subject as deeply as they would have liked to have learned it. And so I just wonder, with all this extra money that we have from this COVID funding programs, is there any way we can dedicate some of that money to a summer school opportunity for kids of all grades to pick up in those areas where they feel they've been deficient? We'd have to hire staff, obviously. Maybe we get some of our staff to work a summer school environment. But I really think this is important, this year especially. Because if we just wait and plan it out for future years, these kids that have lost information to this point in their lost year, they're going to have a hard time getting back, because they're going to be asked to move on to next year's pace. I ask, people tell me, well, why don't they just extend the school year this year? And I go, would you... Sorry. What's been told to me from my daughter, for instance, I said, aren't you guys behind on your curriculum path for a normal year? She goes, no, we've tried to keep to our map, but what's fallen by the wayside is enrichment opportunities that normally happen throughout the days, and also maybe some of this deep drill with certain students that are just falling down. So that's what people don't think that way. They think that they're just only going to get in 3/4 of this year's subject matter because they've been out for this time and that time. I don't know exactly how many minutes we've missed through the virtual world and all that, but I know there's been some loss. So that's what I tell people based on what I've had discussion with my daughters. Basically, they're on path to get done at the end of the year. But again, so I just hope that, do you have any comments on that subject for the summer school?
Certainly, we've had conversations regarding how much offering we have and the type of subject matter that we might cover. I do know, looking at some of the grant requirements and some of the things they're wanting us to target, and obviously the importance of literacy and math, those are definitely an emphasis, and the literature bears that out. To your point, we are looking at some of those enrichment type things to be available to kids and to be open to them. But do note, our staff have done a tremendous job this year tailoring and working with our existing curriculum. We also know there's still work to be done in prioritizing our standards moving into next year. And then that's some work that our CIA department heads are already starting to develop for CIA Camp as a means to also shore up maybe some things and spend some priority time on things that need more attention than others.
Well, again, I feel that it's very important we do it this summer, and I feel it's very important that we provide this free of charge to these students. That we do not
In this
try and do a summer school fee-based program where you have to pay.
No, not at all. That's a great point. No, this is free. We would be providing transportation, meals, working with Debbie Brindle on that.
Okay.
Keep in mind, the Recovery of Learning Plan is a multi-year plan. This isn't just this summer. We're moving into beyond this summer, even looking into next. So we're looking at.
That would be nice, but right now I'm concerned about the issue, okay? So thank you for, I think you drilled down very well on that subject. The other thing that was the last subject, the 3D virtual learning. With our wonderful improvements in technology that we're hopefully going to be making to our district here in the very near future, are we really that far away from having virtual students in a classroom on a daily basis? Where a teacher would be responsible for, say, a third grade teacher, 27 students, 22 of which would be in the class and 5 which would be virtual. Where the kids would learn at the same path, with the same material, by the teacher teaching basically both ways. And I know there's challenges with that, but technology is often the biggest part of the challenge. So I just wondered, can't we look at that as an option instead of the 3D virtual academy? I mean, I know the 3D virtual academy is probably an easier route to go, but you know, I just wonder if we should kind of take a look at that, see what the limitations would be. And maybe it's not next year for that, maybe it is 5 years down the road when more technology is going to put it into the buildings and the classrooms and into the community. More people have solid access to internet versus sketchy at times. So that's, you know, obviously a big limitation that I've heard out there. So.
I'll certainly appreciate the idea because you're right, technology is continuing to change, and so again, some of those options may be more available in the future than they are currently. And so we're really looking at knowing there'll be a need, knowing some families, depending on how things shake out, you know, maybe really wanting to have that other option. So we're just looking at how to have economies of scale and to really replicate some of the positives that have happened with 3 district special ed.
Well, thank you for those comments and appreciate anything you can do in those areas and keeping us informed. Thank you.
Ms. Shane?
So the good thing about going last, or almost last, is any and all questions that you have are normally answered by the 3 or 4 or 5 before you. All I have to say is, great presentation. Thank you for your enthusiasm with our curriculum, and I can't wait to see what happens with it.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. Appreciate the, as always, you bring a plethora of information for us. And I'm always wondering if we're going to come in and get, 2 or 3 slides from you, but I've come to figure out that that's not going to happen. I'm glad to see that you're so engaged at the county level and the state level professionally. I think that speaks volumes for you, and it's definitely great for Linden's community schools. And I have someone like you working at these levels to promote education and what's happening at the K-12 public school level. I'm glad to see so much with the STEM and things like that with the bond project, and you hit on it some. We're not waiting for the brick and mortar to be in place. That's when you do that, you're way behind and you failed. So obviously, you and Russ and everybody are leaning forward. You're being proactive and trying to look at what the possibilities are. And I think that's great. And I know in social media there were a couple parents that I saw commenting, what's out there, what are our kids going to have for opportunities with computer science, things like that. It's not going to probably be immediately in time frame that they're looking at, but we're definitely moving in that direction. And it's greatly appreciated that you're putting together a very thoughtful plan that will grow with kids from kindergarten all the way through their graduating year. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, this is the first portion of the meeting for public comments on non-agenda items. If there are any public comments, please limit them to 3 minutes in duration. They're presented to the board president. We'll refer them to the superintendent, who will respond at the next meeting or sooner to the individual before the next meeting if so warranted. Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items? Okay. We will move on then. Our next item is the consent agenda, consisting of minutes from the regular meeting on March 17th. I need a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
Support.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Roll call vote, Mrs. Kelly.
Amy,
Yes.
Luck,
Yes.
Montague,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Shayna,
Yes.
and Baker.
Yes. There are no action items this evening, so we'll move on to discussion. Our first item is non-homestead renewal for 2021. Russ?
Yeah, I'm going to take a minute. Actually, I'm going to get this set up. And while I'm doing that, Mrs. Dickey is going to present some information to the board about our non-homestead renewal that actually expires in December of 2021. So we're at a point we've got to make a decision as a board and as a district moving forward of when we would like to put this on the election. So give me a minute, Pam, and I'll get this, Jared, I'm going to share the screen again.
You ready, Pam?
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm here tonight to have another thing on our item, on our plates here to discuss. We've been so busy talking about, the COVID and our bond, that our non-homestead millage has snuck up on us. And unfortunately, it's something that we, you, or I should say, you as the board need to discuss as far as determining what we want to do as far as taking the non-homestead millage renewal out to the voters for a vote. So currently, right now, the non-home millage will expire, like I said, in December of 21. And this is under Proposal A. The districts were required to levy a maximum of 18 mills. And the state assumes that each district in the state will levy the 18 mills. And that is part of our foundation allowance, which I'll show you how that is determined here in a minute. The districts cannot levy more than 18 mills. The districts can go out and request a larger amount of mills. Currently, right now, our millage rate is 20.346, but the district cannot levy more than 18 mills. And the big thing is that this tax is not for primary residents. It's not for our homeowners. This is a tax that is levied against properties that are like businesses or people who have second homes. They may have homes on the lakes as a summer place, industry properties. Those are the type of properties that this non-homestead is based off. So right now, our current millage rate is a 20.3746. So for this school year, 2021, that millage rate made up 9.7% of our state aid pupil allocation. So we always talk about our pupil allocation, the 8111. That's what we always talk about when we bring the budget, when I bring the budgets, we always talk about that. However, the two parts of that is the state actually only pays us 73.26, and the remainder of it is from our non-homestead millage. If we did not have that millage and it expired, we would lose that $785 per pupil amount. For this school year, that amounted to approximately a little bit over $2 million. State will not make up that difference if you do not have non-homestead millage, a current one. So you can see why it's pretty important that we continue our non-homestead millage. Why do we want to ask for it? We want to ask for it to renew at the current rate of the 20.3746, even though we are only allowed to levy the 18 mils. The balance of the 2.3746, maybe I should put my glasses on, we use for the Headley rollback. And I know that some of the board members who've been on before, the board for quite a while, our last millage that we actually did for the non-homestead was in 2011. So we usually do them for 10 years. And in that time, every year, we may have a Headley rollback, we may not. So what is the Headley rollback? It's basically when the growth in the property tax revenue is more than the rate of inflation. So what the county does is they do this big calculation, and every May they send us our the information, and they let us know what the non-homestead property values are, what our homestead property values are, and they determine if we have a rollback or not. So having that extra amount of levies helps with this. And this next slide will kind of really show you how it helps. So back in 2000, the vote was in 2011, but the tax year started in 2012. The millage was 21.4061. But in the kind of the center column, you can see, first couple of years, we didn't have a rollback. Property tax values probably weren't rising like they currently are. But you can see in the last 6 years, we've had a rollback. And then you can see how it affects our final average. So right now, in this December, if we don't have a rollback, we're still at 20.3746. But again, we can only levy 18 mils. So why is it important? Well, I've kind of already just stated that if we don't have this, we would lose about $2 million next year, or even the year after, depending on if we don't take it to the voters for a renewal. The thing about this that's important is that this money can be used for anything that operates the district. It's not restricted in any ways. It's not like federal funds or some of our at-risk money and stuff like this. It can be used for anything. And again, if it's not renewed, we would lose $2 million that we would have to take out of our fund balance. Will this tax increase non-homestead properties? No, because it's a continuing tax. The people pay it already right now. It's not going to be an increase. It could be a decrease if it didn't pass, but there is no increase to anybody who's currently paying this non-homestead tax. Is this something new, renewal new? No, this has been going on since 1995 as part of Proposal A, so everybody is used to it. They see it on their tax roll. It's nothing new. Again, like I said earlier, by law, the school districts are required to levy 18 mils for the total allocation of their state aid. Therefore, it is critical for us to continue to levy these 18 mils. And this renewal must be approved by the voters. And as of right now, we have a couple election dates here. August 3rd, November 2nd, and then possibly we could go into next year or May. The only thing with May is that because it expires December of 21, if we did May, we have to put a new millage. We could not put on the ballot renewal. I know Russ had talked about that they might be changing the language, but as of right now, if we waited to May, it would have to say a new tax rate. So our possible dates right now are August 3rd and November 2nd. Russ and I and our administration team, we kind of, when we put this out before break and stuff, we would like to recommend an August 3rd election, just based on the fact that if for some reason it didn't pass, we do have the opportunity for November. The only drawback with August 3rd as of right now is that as of right now, from what we've heard from the townships and the county, we would be the only one on the ballot. So it would cost us money for that. So I guess that's something that we probably need to have a discussion on. Do we not do May and hope for the best in November, and or do we, try in August and pay the fees, and that way we're kind of, if it doesn't pass, we still have one more opportunity. So that's just kind of the information that we wanted to provide to you tonight to think about, ask some, if you have questions. It's just something that we have to address here very quickly. So that's all I have.
Mr. Haney, any questions?
Do we have an idea what the cost is going to be for the August 3rd?
Well, I did some research, and we had an election in May of 2016. It was May of 2016, and that was roughly $17,000. Then we did another one in November of 17, and that was just over $19,000. So I would probably say we're probably looking somewhere right around 20 grand.
Do we know of any districts that this hasn't been voted on and approved? I mean, I can't imagine if schools are left hold the bag on a couple $1 million lost revenue.
Not that I know of, because again, the residents, it's not really affecting them. It is a business, mostly a business. So I honestly don't know of anybody who's not passed, but who know, how things are nowadays, so.
You said they're good for 10 years.
It's 10 years. That's what we're asking for, 10 years, yes.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Sherry?
Yeah, I would, thanks for all the information, first off. It's very informative. This is sometimes stuff that's tricky to understand, and I always appreciate your explanations of how it works. I would be in full support of this, moving forward with this for an August 3rd election. I definitely agree with the thought process from the administration on the fact that if it doesn't pass for some reason, you still have November. I don't think we can risk losing this for our district at this point. I am a little concerned about making sure that we educate people on what this means. I think coming off of a year where we just, passed a bond and then having something else on the ballot could be confusing for voters. So making sure that we help everyone understand clearly what it means for them is going to be important. But yeah, I appreciate bringing this to our attention because obviously this is really important. So thank you.
Mr. Ronnie, your questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Haney and Ms. Luck made some good points and questions that I had. My only other question would be, does anyone know how the vote went in 2011? Like by what kind of percentile it passed by or anything like that for comparison?
Honestly, I don't know. We probably might be able to go back. We may have the election results in our file.
Yeah.
We can find out for you.
Okay, I'm just curious how tough of a fight this might be, and to Ms. Long's point about how much education we might have to put out there to make sure that it passes. So, but yeah, obviously more to come, and thanks for the information. Thanks.
Mr. Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Dickey, for the presentation. Question for you regarding the it has to be for no more than 10 years?
No more than 10 years.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I apologize for my fellow board members back in 2011 that I didn't think of this, but why don't we look at a 9-year for this time only, non-homestead renewal, that would put us on a cycle of August of an even year the next time around, which would be a freebie, because it would be on the tails of primaries being held every 2 years like that. Would there be a primary every 2 years in August? I mean, in even numbered years? House has a thing going on with our people, and Senate, or the federal congressmen are elected every 2 years. So, it states that we're looking at a $20,000 bill here, this year, but I don't see us getting around that. The bottom line is that November, who's gonna run something in November? Maybe. I mean, we might wanna wait for that, I mean, but I think there's likelihood that at the towns, what entity would be looking for something? I don't know, I guess we could do a little research and see who typically runs for an election in November of odd number of years, and see if there's anybody that's gonna jump up and be forced to share the cost with us. That would be the only reason, again, I would wanna stall out for the November election. You mentioned a May, is that even possible without losing some money? I mean, don't we have to have it on the books by the end of the year to be able to have a continuous stream of money?
We have, because we, during the budget hearing in June, I bring the L4029, which is we set the levies.
Okay.
So as long as it
Here's
is
for the whole year.
approved by that point, that we're okay. But basically July 1st, as long as it was approved by July 1st.
Okay.
However, we do have to change the language on the ballot.
Yeah, and again, May of next year, I don't think again, we could do some research, see who typically has a May of even numbered year election. That's kind of become just an oddball thing.
And
So-
who knows, 5 years from now, all these election things could change, the way
Well, I
they
don't think the federal government and state government are gonna change having primaries in August. I think that's pretty much solid for the future, so.
But I mean,
I guess my suggestion to the board is we look at a 9-year thing. It's only 1 year less than a regular. We do it in August this year, but then we put us on track for August of 2030 for a and hopefully there'll be free at that point.
the only other thing I could
For
suggest,
20
and I don't know the answer, but maybe we can find out, is even if we did 10 years, we might even be able to have the election a half
Okay.
a year before we needed to have it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So we may have been able to have it last November
Oh,
to, so that.
so we got a little research to do. Yep, but I agree. I just think that we've got to get on that cycle, however it happens, whether it's, we put a little notation in our book here, come August of 2030, we can do something different. Okay? Other than that, thanks again and I'm all for the override. I think it can be difficult to sell it, but not really. I mean,
Right. And
it's a little education, but we would have lost for the last 5-6 years substantial enough amount of money where it was be worth the education to get the override.
Yeah, and I know that I was doing some research, and I know back in 2010, we were under 18. We were like 17
Wow.
point something,
I
and
remember
that's
that.
why we went up to, I think it was 22 or something like that, and we did,
I apologize for that too, but I wasn't on the board in 2000, so.
But at one point, we were under the 18 months.
All right. That's all for me. Thank you, Ms. Mason.
Ms. Shane.
Really, the only question I have is if someone else was gonna be running, but you answered that question. Thank you for all your information.
Russ, did you have that number?
Yeah, Mr. Montague, you had asked about the results from 2011. November 8th of 2011, Linden School millage, 64% of the voters were in favor, 35% were not in favor. Total votes, about 3,500.
Great, thank you.
Is that 101% reported?
Thanks, Pam, appreciate the update
It was
and bringing this to
101%.
us. And I do concur with Mr. Murphy's thought on trying to get on to a cycle. that is, that's where you have to be a little bit forward thinking, and sometimes you only see the gator that's right next to your boat, and you don't see further down the road. So, thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is the GISD biennial election electoral representative and alternate for the June 7th, 2021 ISD election. Russ?
All right, the biennial election meeting for the GISD will be held Monday, June 7th at 5:30 p.m. in the Legacy Auditorium of the Edwin L. Davis Center. The purpose of this meeting is to elect 2 members of the Board of Education of the Genesee Intermediate School District. There are 2 open seats, with 1 6-year term to be filled ending on June 30th of 2027, and 1 2-year seat with a term ending on June 30th, 2023. Each constituent school district is required to be represented at the election meeting by 1 board member and to designate an alternate. The board will need to adopt a resolution at our next regular meeting appointing a representative and an alternate. There will be a second resolution in May, which the board will designate the candidate that the board directs the representative to vote for.
Thanks, Russ. I don't think we really have to have a discussion on this. I just ask for the next meeting, if anyone's interested in serving as either the voting delegate or the alternate, please email Michelle Callard, and then we'll take it from there as an action item next board meeting. Mr. Murphy.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I do have a little fun fact. I was last year's member, and when you have a tie, you've got an opportunity to deviate from the rest of your board. In other words, once you have your second round of voting, I stuck with the board's wishes and stayed with the same candidate. But you don't have to. And obviously somebody didn't, and it changed. So there was a second vote and a second. Otherwise, if everybody stuck with their people, then it would be tie. So it happened where somebody caved and went with the other person, and our candidate, I think, lost out on that one. So, but just a fun fact, you got a little power trick if you want one.
Thanks, Steve.
All for me.
Appreciate it. Yeah, just like you said, if you want to be the delegate or an alternate and you're available that afternoon, please let us know, and we'll bring that up at the next board meeting. Our third discussion item tonight is the Linden Community School Series 1 bond update. I think Russ and Greg have a presentation for us to bring us up to speed.
Yeah, I'm going to work through sharing the screen here, and then Greg's going to go over some of our Series 1 bond projects and just kind of update everybody as far as where we're at in the process. We're talking about the
Bond series presentation?
I think you have to use it like that.
That's fine. The board has the document in front of them, or at least it was sent to them, so hopefully they had a chance to review it. It was probably, I don't know, 2 months ago when we had brief discussions about the allocations of the bond dollars and how we were looking at potentially trying to move, some of the dollars from Series 3 up to Series 1. That since has occurred, so we originally were looking at a $15 million Series 1 bond program, a $20 million Series 2 bond program, and a $20 million Series 3. That is now going to be $18 million in Series 1, $20 million in Series 2, and then $15 million, or excuse me, 17 in the final series of the bond. Series 1, we had some brief discussions also about the project that we've been working on really most diligently at this point, which is the new multi-purpose center. We've had design meetings that have been occurring, and we're going to go into greater detail on that tonight. But I really want to go through kind of what the program looks like as it's laid out right now in total, so everyone kind of has an idea of what it looks like for really the next 6 years. So if we look at Series 1, looking at August of this year, construction's period through December of 2022, We're going to be building the new multipurpose center. We're also looking at bid package number 2, which is going to be the addition to Linden Elementary School, which is the media center. All of the renovations within that building, secure entrance, technology upgrades in the site for that. And also, the final bid package of series number 1 will be secure entrances at Central Elementary School, Linden Middle School, Hyatt roof. We talked about that as something we wanted to bump forward because there's a need for it right now. And then also some technology upgrades. I will say one of the caveats with the technology upgrades is there will be a separate bid package that will be brought forward from our tech department and our tech consultants that will look at that in total of what that is going to look like as we go through. I think there's been some talks about how to structure that to take advantage of certain E-rate and things of that nature. So as we move on to Series 2, this construction period will be March of 2023 through September of 2024. It'll be the conversion of the current gymnastics area at Hyatt Elementary School and turning that into an early childhood center. Technology upgrades again at the elementary schools. That's bid package number 4. Bidding that out in January and starting construction in April. The big one is going to be bid package number 5. We have a significant amount of work that's going to be happening in Linden High School. And again, a lot of these things that we're doing up front, like this multipurpose center, is because these things falling behind really, they hinge on that building being done so we can create space to do the remodeling and the upgrades that we want to do in these locations. So the high school, there's going to be an addition, they call it an addition. It's really just an infill of the courtyard, which is behind us here in the glass. That's going to become part of the building. The courtyard will go away. Significant renovations to this building. Brett kind of talked about some of the STEM. There's a large section of this building in the back, which is currently wrestling our facility area. That area is going to get converted over into STEM and robotics. So a little over about $12.5 million in construction is going to happen in this building. And then as we move on to the final series, we're talking a period from May of 2025, just really completing the bond program in September of 2026. The first bid package will be number 6, which is going to be the renovation work at Hyatt, Central, and Linden Middle School. Site improvements, so we're trying to do common, kind of a, I don't know what our term is, we're trying to do a similar appearance or facade to each of our buildings. When the people come to our community, they know where the entrance are to buildings. Right now we have a lot of cumbersome entrances and people aren't sure, so you're going to know when you look at our buildings, we're going to have a common theme at each of them, whether it be an awning, some type of insignia that is going to demonstrate kind of where people are to go. So that's included in that. Bid package number 7 is district-wide technology upgrades. And then the final bid package number 8, and there's various things that may happen with that. We have $200,000 set aside, basically at this point, to demolish Argentine Elementary School. It comes offline. We've said there's numerous things that we're looking at. Possibility of selling it as a whole, possibly leasing it. If it comes down to it, that may be the final answer, but we're hopeful that there may be some better solution to utilize that building down the road. So with that being said, I guess I'll take questions on this before we move on.
Any questions?
We'll be coming back to the board numerous times as we work our way through these series. There's a whole lot of projects in detail that lies within that is going to come to this board for formal approvals. I mean, all of the contracts with individual subcontractors, all of those things are going to get approved by the board. So there's not detail that this board is going to miss. There's going to be an abundance of information that's going to come for the next really 5 or 6 years to this board for them to make decisions on.
Mr. Haney, any questions on the sequences?
Just one basic one. Series 1, we got 18 million, correct?
Correct.
And the figures don't add up here. The 9.8, 3.5, and 650.
Now, if you total all of them, you're going to find that it probably comes to about 41.5 million.
Okay.
And the reason for that is It does not include the dollars for technology. It does not include any design fees, does not include any construction management fees. It does not include any construction contingencies, which includes escalation for projects out in the future, and also the general condition dollars that we have allocated for the bond, which are basically reimbursable expenses, testing, various things that we have to do as part of the bond program.
So this is simply building cost itself?
Basically simple
No other
construction.
ancillary expenses?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Select, any questions?
No, thank you.
Mr. Montague, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Mr.
Good to
Murphy?
see it out this way, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. Like I said, I've had sincere disagreements with this package for years. I really am offended by the secure entrance issue. I think we have secure entrances in all of our buildings right now. And to throw any money at moving offices from here to there makes absolutely no sense when you're walking in the front door and the office is right there. How much better can that be? To me, it can't be better. The issue with the multi-purpose building, it'd be nice to have a multi-purpose building that was truly multi-purpose, but this is going to be pretty much dedicated to 4 different areas. And so that takes away its quote-unquote multi-purpose building aspect in my mind. I'm concerned about our gymnastics program being put out there because, first place, it's not ours, it's partly ours. We're not on the hook for providing gymnastics for the area, but yet that's what we tend to want to do with this portion of the $9.8 million building. I'm also concerned about the wrestling being put out there. I mean, wrestling, from what I understand, they like to have hot environments to work out in so they can burn off calories and this and that. I don't think that's going to be possible in a building that has a high ceiling and is, whether it's partitioned off or not, I don't know. Based on the diagram we got, I couldn't quite tell whether there was a partition there or not.
Mr. Murphy, can I? Oh, I was just going to say, we're going to get to that.
Yeah, I know that. So this is kind of confusing. Where do I talk about that? Now or later?
Later.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, this is just about the bid packages.
So, yes, it's, like I said, I'm all up for the technology upgrades. I'm up for practical things of spending our money, but these other issues that are wasteful spending of this money, that could allow for more better spent money, quite frankly, throughout the district. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'll have opportunities to vote on yes on some stuff and no on others, or I have to vote no on the whole thing. I don't know, but bottom line is I continue to have my concerns. So that's all for now. Thank you.
Mr. Shane.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the rundown and, kind of jumping ahead. As a security professional working in physical security for the last almost 30 years, I couldn't be more in disagreement with Mr. Murphy on his comments with regard to security of our building.
Move on.
Yeah, why don't we go to the site plan for the campus first? Or I'm sorry, the composite floor plan for the multipurpose center.
Composite floor plan. Can't even see anymore.
Yeah, that should be it. Yes.
You get too old.
I'm not sure, are we going to be able to blow it up?
Yeah, right now.
So basically what we want to start with is the project that we've been working on for several months with a committee, team of people here in Linden. And this is the new multi-purpose center. Not the clearest image in the world. Again, the board has this hopefully in their board documents. And I'll try to speak in detail, kind of what we're looking at. Try to talk about some of the concerns that Mr. Murphy had. Basically, the top side of this is going to be the north end of the building. The main entrance into the facility is going to be here under this angled awning area. You'd walk into a lobby area that we're looking at, doing some digital technology with some of the awards and trophies and do kind of something that's less space intensive like we have here in high school, and probably try to digitalize a lot of that information so people can come in and they can search by name and year and a lot of cool stuff. There'll be administrative office space, kind of a lobby area and a couple of offices that would be adjacent to that lobby area. some storage. We're gonna have a community fitness center that would be right off the lobby, so something that would be easily manageable from the people that are working in this building. Also, near the front of the building, this is the wrestling space. This is a dedicated space. It is a dedicated HVAC system. It does have lower ceilings than the remainder of the building, and we'll try and show you that when we get to some of the elevations of this, but basically, the roof line for this whole front office, or this whole front area, is substantially lower than what we have in the main area of the gym. As you walk down the corridor, we have basically these multi-use spaces. They're going to be team rooms that are adjacent to a locker room. Those rooms are also going to be used for community ed programs. So they can be general classroom space. They can be used for the teams that come in. That's one of the primary uses. So when we have football games, there'll be kind of a locker room or a meeting place where the teams can come in, get out of the weather. Boy, it's horrible when you blow it up, isn't it?
I think the other sections will be better.
Hopefully. Again, a locker room, so we have a men's and a women's locker room. We have a coaches area, or a place where referees can go in and change and get ready for events. Some mechanical space. Again, a secondary team room slash, this will be used for parties, this will be used for classes, and again, it'll be used on occasion for team use. And again, men's and women's main restrooms. We do have, and you can't see it on here at all, but we do have a family use restroom. We have a ticket sale area and a little small point of view or point of sale area where they can do concessions, something like that. We do have a second level in this that includes a running track. That's really all it includes on the second level. It's just a walking track or a running track. So we have a stairwell and a elevator to get to that second level, which is required. Down here on the far end would be an elevator and a set of stairs. In the main area, we have about 14,000 square feet of gymnasium space. When we first started talking about this with the committee, we had actually discussed the possibility of putting a mezzanine in the space. Not just the running track, but a mezzanine that could be used for batting cages or a small turf area. And really, I think that the group as a whole was really hoping that we could have a larger space that could be converted to turf, that could be used for indoor activities, turf related, and then also that stuff would be removable and we could have it all hard surface floor. So we're looking at doing exactly that. And I don't know how the calendar would work, but basically a good portion of the time we would see probably 50% of this space being utilized with a portable turf system that could be taken out and stored in a large storage room here, which would then give you a large hard surface area. Or opposite, you could go to your storage area, grab the remainder of your turf and fill the entire area with turf, which would give you a fairly large area of all turf that you could use. We have a fixed set of bleachers that would be retractable, similar to what you see here in the high school. That would be on the north end, adjacent to the wrestling room wall. That would be front opening, so it backs up against this wall and opens into the space. It would seat 300 people. The thought at first is that we would need more than that, but as we started looking at the uses and kind of being able to incorporate the running track above for spectator use, we felt it was probably very feasible to reduce the number of bleachers, because it dictates a lot of things that go on in this building as far as restroom space, HVAC systems, and things like that. We feel that 300 plus all of the people that you could put in on that running track to spectate would be significant. As you come down to the back end of the building, we have, it's 9,240 square feet is dedicated to gymnastics. It has a set of bleachers that basically are part of the wall. They're above the bleachers. There's a curtain to really somewhat seal that off for sound and what have you, but there would be permanent walls and doors on either side of that mobile bleacher. But that mobile bleacher basically opens rearward, so you have seating for people to watch those gymnastics events. And part of the intent behind this was trying to create a gymnastics area that was usable not only for practice, but also for their events without having to take all that equipment and move it like they do now. It's a huge challenge for them to be able to move that into another space, and and you're basically taking up the area where something else could be happening. So now the practice facility is going to be the same facility that they would hold events in. They can hold pretty much every event, high school, all the way down with the setup that we've looked at here. The running track, and we can probably just look at it from this, Russ.
Okay.
The running track, basically, you can kind of see the outline of it here. This line that you see right here, it goes all the way around the perimeter. It is around gymnastics and around the main gymnasium portion. It stops short of the wrestling area because the wrestling area has a lower ceiling. So basically, the high wall of the building ends right here. That track is around this perimeter. Again, a set of stairs that are required by code for emergency exit from the second level. Large storage room. As we talked about the maintenance area in this building, the area that we have trucks and equipment and some of our shop equipment and all that type of stuff. This will basically, I don't want to call it a lean-to, but it is basically kind of a lean-to on the back. What this is a pre-engineered building. So this entire center section, inclusive of the wrestling area, is all pre-engineered. It's steel structured building similar to what the administration building is, just on a much grander scale, larger scale. And this is also pre-engineered, all of this on the side. It's basically a lean-to. It would have a single pitch roof coming off the side. And again, a couple of tools areas and a little shop area for equipment. Storage area for the gymnastics. That's kind of it in a nutshell, what it is. I think this is version 9, and I don't know the timeline. This has probably been in the design phase for the last 4 months, 5 months probably.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
Shortly after the election results.
The main level of the building, the ground floor, encompasses about 44,000 square feet, and the track is about 5,024. So the building is, in total, just under 50,000 square feet. Wrestling is 4,700 square feet. The fitness area, which is really, we're looking at community fitness. We're not looking at free weights, we're looking at more equipment that people from our community and athletes can come in and utilize, but not the free weight stuff like we currently have in high school and intend to maintain here. Again, the main gymnastics area is 14,160, 9,240 for gymnastics. The foyer and front office space is 2,280. Each of the team rooms are in the 700 to 800 square foot range. One's larger than the other because it includes water for parties, and then 2,175 square feet in the shop area, including some of the storage. Any questions on that?
Mr. Shane?
I have nothing.
Mrs. Love?
Thanks for all the info, and I'm glad you pointed it out, because I'm a little challenged with this too, but it does look better on our screen than it does.
Yeah, I don't know, it's so poor looking.
Yeah, it's okay, but I'm glad you went through it all. Just a quick question, and I know this kind of has nothing to do with this building, but it does. Was there any discussion of putting like a dedicated robotic space, or will that be in this building?
It's going to be in the high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
the wrestling and maintenance area in the back of this, which is kind of in the very southwest wing of this building, that area in total is going to be used for both of those, robotics and STEM.
Gotcha, because I just, when you were talking about having different flooring options for this gymnasium space.
Yes.
I know for robotics, they use like mats of some sort, or different flooring as well. And
Sure, but
it would be neat if we could have an option for that even, so as robotics continues to grow, we might even be able to host small meets. I know they do things on a larger scale right
Yeah.
now, but I mean, robotics is gonna continue to grow.
We absolutely will, and I can tell you, as we've gone through this, the whole intent behind this is truly multi-purpose, to be able to utilize this building for everything that we possibly can, whether it be rummage sales that they may want to do through community ed, whether it be robotics, whether we can do an auto show or something. The floor in this is actually going to be a rubber-type material that is basically drivable. It plays like a wood floor, but it just gives you way more flexibility, and also it doesn't have the intensive costs that you have with a maple floor. And also easily allowing the setup of these portable turf systems to be placed on top of this and taken off. A lot of traffic, and I'll have samples as we get through some of that. We're really just starting to look at finishes and what some of this might look like as we get into that, but we are not looking at doing a maple floor in this building.
I really agree with that, and I like it a lot, because it does offer a lot more opportunity for many different groups.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Mr. Montague, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, Mr. Vadez, the center area that's truly the multi-purpose part of this building, how big is that area?
Like the center gymnasium area?
Yes.
14,160.
Okay, and how tall ceiling does that have?
36 feet, I think, I think right around 36 feet to the center, to the peak.
About a third of the size of a football field.
It is. Actually, on here, we could actually probably bring it up, for our committee, I actually kind of overlaid the turf area size onto our football field so people could kind of visualize what that might look like. But basically, it would go from the 33 to the 33 between the hashes. And a lot of people may not be able to visualize that, but that is basically the size of the turf that we would be able to put into this area if we were to fill it completely with turf.
Again, if you ever do get this building built, I would suggest you put turf down in that whole center area and then cover it with other surfaces. Because I think the turf would be probably the most utilized of any of the other surfaces that you want to put on there, whether it be the basketball courts, volleyball courts, basketball courts, I should say about the same thing. I just think that the likelihood that this area serves the needs of this community as a form of an indoor turf facility is larger than any of these other things that you're talking about, in my opinion. So, just something to consider, I guess. But.
Well, it's the hope of the committee that the thing would be dual use and can be utilized. And I'll tell you, the turf, and we haven't chosen, but we've looked at, we've had several flooring contractors or manufacturers that have came in. And again, I have it on here. I have samples. I was going to show the group tonight kind of what it looks like. It's a super neat system. That's an interlocking panel. They're 3 foot by 5 foot. They weigh 20 pounds. They have transitions, so you can actually put that down and transition around it. So you can have people in wheelchairs, they can get up on it. It's a I don't want to say you're going to put it in and take it out for a weekend. Any of these systems are just not designed for that.
Right.
But we are looking at being able to fully turf that entire area.
I'm just telling you that right now, you look around the community, around the area, I think of the Legacy Center down in near Brighton. That is a huge indoor facility that's turf, but yet they bring in portable courts for volleyball on a regular basis. I've seen so many other operations where it's turf primarily and then covered with courts that will service other things like basketball or volleyball, most notably. So do what you want, but that's just my suggestion.
Okay.
Other than that, I was looking, I guess, I don't know if this is appropriate to bring this up right now or not, but I'm looking at the depictions, the north. You ever really shown that?
Elevations?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, okay, well, can we do that now, or do you want to do that later? Or?
Well, do you finish questions or on this before?
Yeah.
We can, this is the next thing to show.
Yeah, go ahead and bring those up if there's,
Maybe,
Ms. Shane, do you have any questions or comments?
or you, Mr. Maker?
No, I'm good.
North elevation, Russ? There you go. So as you can see from this, and it may be easier to see if I explain it, when you're looking at the front of this lower pitch here is actually a bump out from the main structure that is actually the wrestling and fitness area. So the ceilings here you can see are significantly lower than what they are in the rest of it. The area over to the left would be the offices, the lobby area here, obviously. We're looking at doing glass, so to get natural light into the facility on both ends, the north and south end. That would be just above the track. So the elevated track would be, under that glass area running all the way around. And as you go down the left side over here is where you'd have the team rooms, the restrooms, access from the stadium side. And we actually can go to that elevation, but do you have a question on this?
I guess I got a question on both the elevations, the north and the east.
Okay.
So I guess when I look at the north, okay, I see parking out there. And then I look at the east, we can go to that one real quick. East elevation.
Yep.
I see no parking, just a walk up sidewalk. And then when I go to the campus site plan, it seems to be exactly backwards. I don't quite understand that. The parking seems to be on the east side of the building. There is no parking at all on the north side of the building. So what am I looking, am I missing something here?
Yeah, well, let's go to that. So let me just explain. This would be what you'd be looking at from the
Football.
stadium.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Team room entrances, low area, again, offices, obviously easy for people to recognize. You want to go over that?
Yeah, the site map?
Site, yeah.
See, I see parking there over on the,
So this is
looks like on the east side of the building. I see no parking on the north side of the building.
Now,
I see,
this is the north, right here.
oh, okay,
Here's
Okay.
the new parking that would be for this facility.
okay.
So adjacent to the north. The walkways and stuff that we're looking at on that east elevation are basically what we're showing here.
Yep.
Okay, but there's more going on in this than obviously just this building. And why don't we start with the multi-purpose center area first, and we can talk about kind of some of the things that we're doing here. So one of the challenges that we've had for a very long time.
Sorry, Greg.
You're right. Yeah, that works. One of the big challenges we've had for many years is leaving this service drive, which is basically all it was ever really intended for bus traffic and deliveries and what have you up to the middle school. We tried to open this and use it for sporting events and all that type of stuff, and it's created a lot of issues through the years, a lot of close calls. So for probably about the last 2 years, anytime we have activities going on in the stadium or the ball fields, we've gated this off. We basically shut it off and don't allow anyone to use it. As part of this plan, in order to create access to this building all the time, even if there's an event going on in the stadium, we're looking at basically abandoning this road, removing a portion of it, primarily through this area for sure, and rerouting the new road, which would be utilized by buses or traffic going to the middle school, basically between the student lot and the bus lot, the way it is right now. This would be the new driveway that would go to the middle school. That would do a couple of things. On nights when we have big events in the stadium, you'd be able to have the middle school gates open. People could leave this site through the middle school without ever coming in contact with people trying to cross the driveway coming out of the stadium. We're looking at putting access directly out of the bus corral, so buses could simply go up to the middle school. But it creates additional parking that would be specific for this during daytime use when you have senior citizens or you have the community or people that are coming to utilize this space for a community ed program, and really not hindering the student parking area. I will say that we're looking at some possible revisions even to this. We're looking at the potential of taking the student lot and really taking it and all the way over to where the driveway is now, almost squaring this up, adding, creating some additional parking space that would be used, during events and stuff, but really to kind of clean this up, make the student entrance kind of in this general area where the curve is now coming in. And that gives us the opportunity to utilize the south end of the high school for bus stops or bus drop-offs in the morning, which we've been doing. It really kind of speeds up some of the things that we have going on around here. You want to scroll that up a little bit? The other thing that the bond had contained within it is trying to fix some of the issues that we have with bus and parent parking pickup, parent pickup at Central and the high school. And again, this isn't super clear, I apologize. Maybe even a little bit more, Russ, maybe so we can see the beginning up here. So one of the issues that we have, two issues we have. There's a significant problem that we have here in the morning because the main driveway in front of the high school is utilized for parent drop-off, parent pickup, and buses. They're intermingled, and the design behind it, back in 04 or 05 when we did this, is that there would be a lane that would be closest to the sidewalk, that would be the bus drop. The inner lane would be used by parents, and the parents would get to this point where they would drop and then they would exit and go out. It worked great for a while, but our parent driving drop-off numbers are through the roof. So not only do we have a problem in the high school with this, but Central Elementary School, if anyone's been here in the afternoon to witness what goes on, it's a disaster. We basically at times can have parents out on Silver Lake Road backed up trying to get in to this site to pick up their kids. What happens now is they're clogging up the driveway, either incoming or outgoing people, because they're staged all over the road. There's really no place for them to go. Under this revision that we have here, and I'll explain it a little bit, we're basically putting a secondary entrance that kind of follows the angle of the driveway that's there now. This inner loop that basically would go around the parking lot would be a parent drop-off for high school. It would allow people to still park in here and exit out through a center driveway that isn't a center road. It's basically another exit coming out of the parking lot. We're going to add one also coming out of Central Elementary School. The other thing it does in the afternoons for the people that are coming to pick up elementary kids, they're going to be utilizing that same driveway to stage all the way around. This driveway at Central is getting extended down, so the two match up now. And parents will basically be able to be staging here, and when there's room, they'll go across and pick up. It gets the people off of the main driveway. It keeps the traffic flowing. It doesn't block buses that are coming in here for athletic events, or people that are trying to leave the site from getting jammed up at this curve because people are sitting there waiting to try to turn in. We feel this is going to do great things for the traffic control that we have on this site, make things a lot safer. Right now, you have parents that are driving all over and in and around these parking lots trying to drop kids off and pick kids up. This is going to be much more controlled, where there'll be curbside drop-off in the mornings, curbside pickup in the afternoon, and then increase the staging that we have for afternoons at the elementary school significantly. And the net parking difference is going to be a wash, because we're looking at creating a little bit of additional parking here. I think there's a loss of 11 spots under this scenario that we have here. But it makes a significant improvement to the traffic flow that we have on this site to try to alleviate some of the issues we have. This isn't the only site. You know, we've made modifications to the 2 elementary schools through the years that worked, and today they're struggling again because our parent drop-off is through the roof. I mean, people are driving their kids, and the vast majority just aren't riding the bus. So this is something that corrects a problem that's, you know, been getting worse and worse, but we feel that it'd be a huge improvement to this site. Make things a lot safer. When we have big events, we feel that the site is going to flow much better. We'll be able to utilize the middle school driveway. It still will be closed during the day, but when we have events, we'll be able to open it up and people can safely pass without having to go near the stadium and pedestrians crossing in front of cars going down that service drive all the time. Any questions on any of those items?
None, Dave. Sherry?
I guess I just asked since I had the chance, but is there additional lighting included in any of this? Because I feel like the parking lots are dark at night around here, but again, it could just be my age.
They are, and it's not necessarily.
Like, I left last night after the lacrosse game, and I'm like, dang, somebody's gonna get hit in this parking lot. Like, it's so dark.
A lot of it is the type of lighting that we have. And I'll tell you, as we go through this bond process, we have LED lighting scheduled really as an energy savings for the district throughout. And that will include parking lot lighting. There is new lighting that is planned in and around the new facility that will be all LED lighting. So the intent would be, as we go, we have the same exact lighting. It's a high-pressure sodium light that is a yellow light. It's not a bright light. It degrades greater than you get with LED lighting. So, you know, they don't go out. They just get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And it's a huge undertaking to go up to replace a bulb, obviously, in a 30-foot light bulb regularly, and they just degrade over time. So yes, the answer is yes. We are going to look at improving the lighting with LED lighting on
I
all
think
of our
that'll be
sites.
huge for just safety precautions. I think it's just, again, like you leave the stadium and it's so bright, and then you get to the parking lot and it just feels so dark. And I don't know, it feels like that at a football game, too, like it's just chaotic because it seems darker. So I think that'll be really nice.
Mr. Montague, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Maker. Mr. Vadez, how does the community assess the community area in the building, the new building? Was there a specific pathway in from the road?
Well, under the current, you can go down, Russ, to the, under this plan, the intent would be they could do one of two things. They could still use the boulevard that is in the center of the student parking lot, or this road right here actually is access right into that parking spot as well. If that's what you're referring to.
Yeah. That's the only way. You can't come from the middle school, because that's still blocked off.
Correct. That is correct.
Just plain good. So, what times of days are the community going to be able to visit? Are they not going to be able to visit during the day when school's actually in class?
Our intent would be to have this open to the public as much as we possibly can. I think-
So, when kids are actually in the south end of the building, go to the student parking lot, there'll be cars driving to go to the community.
I think whoever's programming events there, maybe we take that into account if they have start and stop times. I think the intent behind it is to have that building open to the public as much as possible, within reason.
So it could be a danger to the students, huh? Just an excess for extracurricular traffic that doesn't exist now, that will be going there on that road.
One of the things I said we were looking at was trying to modify this student parking lot and widen it. That would allow for a boulevard that would be down the side, kind of closest to the softball field. That would allow traffic to get in and out of this site without having to go that way. To try and free up this area if we want to use it for student pickup.
You might want to put that on the plan so we can understand that part too.
We're still working on it.
Okay. Because that's a concern of mine, that you're dragging all that traffic across the south end of the gymnasium there, where the student doors are. So, but if you got that boulevard, that'd be great. You shoot them down there and they could get to that building quickly.
Correct.
And safely. So, okay, that's all for me, thanks.
Ms. Shane, any questions?
No, thank you.
All right. I don't have any questions. Thanks, Greg.
Okay, that's all I have.
Is that it?
That's great.
All right, thanks, Greg. Appreciate the update, and I know we'll be seeing more and more of you.
Yeah, well, I guess I should say, and it's said on there, you know, our intent right now is to have this out on the street in June. And at this point, you know, breaking ground August or September. So there'll be a lot more coming to you before then.
Excellent. Next item for discussion is the athletic trainer agreement. Russ?
Thank you. The athletic training service agreement has been reviewed by Mr. Lance Bilal and myself. Sorry about that. The scope of responsibilities being provided by NovaCare Rehabilitation remains unchanged. Caitlin Saunders has been and is currently our athletic trainer. This agreement does include a $1,000 increase in cost for a total cost of $23,500 from our previous agreement. This agreement will be for 2 years, ending July 1 of 2023. The previous agreements we've had with NovaCare have been one-year agreements. It is important to note that we have not seen an increase or a request for an increase in cost from NovaCare in over 3 years.
Thanks, Russ. Dave Haney, any questions?
Just roughly a 4% increase doesn't seem out of line to me. As a public member, I always wondered what she cost and what NovaCare cost us. To me, this is a bargain. If anybody's ever been around this campus, they are here, she is here all the time. So that's the only comment I have.
Sherry Love.
I agree with Mr. Haney and agree with the contract, so that's all.
Mr. Montague?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
Yep, Mr. Soselski, how much does our student fee, what is it, $50 per athlete
That is correct.
for the trainer? How much does that raise?
Off the top of my head, I do not know.
But it's for every athlete, right? We have
That is correct.
probably,
High school only.
the middle school doesn't pay?
No.
Oh.
No, the only access they have to the trainer, in theory, is like for emergency situations. She does attend some of those events if there's not a conflict, and she does, help out when we have those type of situations. Or if a student does need to be looked at, she will go up there, or they will come down here prior to a practice.
Okay, so if we did have half of our student body in high school.
I'm sorry?
If we did have half of our student body in high school participate in athletics or band, because they play too, don't they?
Band does not pay the trainer fee, they pay to participate.
Okay. So, so if we did 400 kids, that's at $50 a kid, that's 20 grand, right?
Yep.
So that's raising most of the fees. And so it's largely paying for itself. I agree with Mr. Haney. I think it's a value, and certainly needed. It's required, I guess, isn't it? To be part of most of the campus?
It's not a requirement.
Really?
There's no mandate from MHSA or the state.
Not from the Metro League?
I don't believe it's a mandate from the Metro League as part of being affiliated with the Metro League. I am unaware of a school that does not have one, even outside of the Metro League.
Yeah. No, I agree, again, that the increase is reasonable. And again, I haven't had any knowledge of any person. I guess my grandkids have a little bit of experience with trainers, so yeah, it's great. I'm glad we have it. So.
Michelle Shane, question?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I think we've been very lucky. We had Sherry Uli for quite a few years before that, and Caitlin more recently, and I think the services they provide are incredible for our students, so I think it's well worth the investment. So, all right, this is that's the end of discussion items. Public comments. This second opportunity for public comments, if we have any. Public abandon us. If there's none, then we'll move on to board reports and announcements. We'll start with Mrs. Shana.
I have nothing, yep.
Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, I just was disappointed that this meeting didn't have the return to school plan. I know we got some emails regarding that. I think it's something that we should still be talking about. I guess that says a signal to me that there's no changes planned probably mid-month. So we're looking at any fruitful changes to this district for at least a month from now. So that's disappointing because I'd still like to see us do more on Fridays at the high school level. So we didn't get a chance to talk about that tonight. So anyways, return to school is important. We should have it on every meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Mr. Montague, any board reports?
No, nothing for tonight, thank you.
Mr. Haney.
I have nothing as well.
Mrs. Lott.
Just a couple of quick things from the Genesee County Association of School Board meetings this past month. I know Russ sent to the rest of the board the handouts that they had provided that I forwarded on to he and Scott regarding the superintendent updates to that group. And then also, one really cool thing I thought, and so I hope you guys took a minute to look at it, was this mobile education lab that the ISD is doing. They're calling it MEL, and it's a revamped bus. I mean, it's like a lab on wheels, so it can go to different districts, different community events, and provide outreach to students all over the county. So it launched in mid-December amongst the pandemic, which was kind of cool, and has a very full schedule. They shared this, I think the schedule is actually on the stuff that was sent out to you guys. So it's kind of neat, maybe an opportunity that Linden could take advantage of at some point. I just thought that was kind of cool, and I was unaware of that, so I wanted to make sure everybody saw that. The ISD is doing their annual MASB Awards and Genesee County Association of School Board Scholarship Awards ceremony in person, April 29th at the ISD in the Innovation Zone. I was invited as the liaison from our board to attend that. Unfortunately, I will be unable to attend that night due to a coaching conflict that I have with my daughter's lacrosse team. But they've invited the liaison person from the boards and then obviously award recipients to that as well. So I don't know, Scott, if that's something you're interested in, I can pass it along to you as the alternate.
Yeah, just forward it to me, so see if I can do that.
Yeah. Are you attending, Ross?
No, I have an update on that as of this morning.
Oh, you do? Okay. So maybe it's not happening in person or at all anymore, not sure. But anyway, as of yesterday, I had an invite to that. So, and that was really it. The varsity lacrosse team had their first game last night, which was a win for the Linden Benton team. So that was kind of cool, good way to start the season, and hopefully they can get some more good games in. So that's all for me.
What was the score?
The score was 23-12, so it was like a big win for the first game. You know, not that that matters. I wasn't going to say it, but thanks for bringing it up, because it was a big win.
What was your update on that?
Yeah, the update, oh, sorry, the update I have is that as of today, they might even be reducing the numbers of attendees. So even though this year I don't believe we have anybody on our board that's getting an award, scholarship I don't know yet. But what they're now asking is only those who are getting the actual awards attend.
Oh, good, then I'll
Yeah.
comply.
And so now scholarship, one of us may be going if one of our recipients is a scholarship winner, but I have not heard that yet.
Okay.
So they're trying to reduce the number once they got the RSVPs from the original one.
Yeah.
You know, they realized
Gotcha.
the facility they had to reduce.
The only thing I had was hosting the VFW award presentation to our Voice of Democracy, Patriots, Pen, and Teacher of the Year. And that was a great event. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have as many attendees as we have in the past, but thanks to Mike Gagne for representing the administration and being there for that. And just a little piece, we celebrated, I'm sitting here fighting with my mask, folks, because I snapped the strap, but we received our 75th year anniversary certificate for the Linden VFW. So as of December 16th of 1945 is when, no, 1946, that the VFW here in Linden was founded. And so we also received that night. So it was nice to have some students there and share that with the community. So usually it's just a bunch of us old guys there at those meetings, and it's nice to share that. So other than that, that concludes our board reports, and no other business. We stand adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.